We'll get him. We'll get him here.
Muchas gracias.
Yep.
Estoy haciendo check en mi cosa.
Yeah, we'll get him here. We just have to. I'll look this weekend when after I drop you off at the airport. And then you will have it when you get back. So you been riding much lately, City Marie?
I'm sorry, what?
You been riding much lately?
That's a no.
That's all right. Seth, good evening.
Evening, Coach. Evening, City Marie.
My legs are a bit hurting today.
Your legs are what?
A bit tired. I believe I may get dropped when we start accelerating a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a legged mess right now. 4x1K repeats the other day were combined with a deep tissue massage that afternoon, and today, well,
Yeah, I did hard workout Monday. Ended up going up the Alpe Zwift after the workout because I still had like 2 miles left of it, so I finished it off. Swam hard, rode in, rode back from work. And then today I did a little over 13 mile. I did a little over 13 mile run this morning, so.
ouch.
Yeah, I went through the half marathon at 1:28 and change, so.
Wow, nicely done.
Yeah, it felt good, but now I'm tired.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I'm a little tired.
Alright, let's kick this bad boy off.
Pulled the trigger on the disc.
Nice. I love it.
Looking forward to it.
Skills and Drills Ride. We're here every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Today's class is all about just picking the right gear for when the attacks happen. And that really means not picking the right gear for when we're riding to make sure we can always respond to whatever we're going to see up the road. It doesn't always necessarily mean it's an attack. It could just be we're in a nice leisurely group ride, and as we come around turns or traffic lights or narrow portions or steep portions, a little bit of incline, making sure we're in the right gear to respond at the right time. So we're going to practice a little bit of accelerating today from different gearing, and we're going to build on our cadence class that we did and focus on how we can best get to where we need to get most efficiently and quickly. So it should be a lot of fun.
You keep using that word.
I think it's fun. Alright, and I'm going to be typing things out periodically, and so when I go quiet, y'all can feel free to chat amongst yourselves. If you have any things to add, feel free to throw it in there. If you just want to talk about you don't like what we're doing, or you like what we're doing, or you hate spinning at a high cadence or low cadence, we can talk about that too. And while I generally can type and talk, sometimes it gets a little complicated, so forgive me if I go quiet for brief periods of time. So we're going to be starting off here in about 6 minutes. We're going to go out of the pen at a max of 1.5 watts a kilo if you're on the front. If you're not on the front, if you're on the back or the middle, you may have to go a little more, a little bit less. If you go out like a crazy person, we will not chase you. We are going to make fun of you for about a minute, and then we'll ignore you. There, we got 20 people with us right now. It's looking good. And I believe we're on the lava course, so that should, or the flat volcano, so that should give us some different terrain to play with. So we'll practice different cadences at different times, and we'll discuss when is the opportune time to be at what kind of resistance on there that you have. So it could be shifting up a couple gears and standing, kind of waiting. It could be just spinning your legs out, being able to respond to small changes. So we're going to cover a lot of different things today. So during our warm-up period, please take the time to move around the group. Don't just sit at the front. I want you to move from the front to the back, to the middle. So you can use me as a center point. I have a big beacon over my head. And I really like you to take the time, Lloyd, welcome. I'd really like you to take the time to see what does it take to move from the back to the front, and how much can you let off and just slowly slide from the front to the back. That's a tactic you see a lot in these spring classics right now, where the sprinters need to get over some rough climbs that they're not ideally suited for. So they'll position themselves at the very front, they'll hit the climb, and they just kind of slide to the back. And they don't lose contact with the group doing that. Alright, we got our Team Moose on with us tonight. Welcome back.
Thank you. You actually have two Team Mooses out here today.
So we have the Team Meese.
You sure do.
Outstanding.
Sometimes it takes us a while to respond because the Discord app is behind the Zwift app, and it doesn't work unless you bring it home.
No worries. I figured it took you a while to respond because you guys were fighting over control for it.
We do that too.
Alright, we're up to 30 people now. problems with us today. Yeah, if you don't want to use the app, you can use it from the web browser if you're on the computer with it, and it won't have that same issue. Cohen just had a point for you. Pete, thanks for joining. Patrick Flickert, hello. Thanks for joining us. All right, about 35 seconds.
Good evening, Coach.
Evening. Alright, so we're going to be doing some nice work on our cadence and our gearing selection. We're going to go over a bunch of different things as we have some varying terrain to deal with today. Alright, 1.5 max at the front. Use me as your middle point. Alright, who are we going to have going crazy from the start? Alright. Alright, decent sized group today. Censor this. Thanks for joining us. Alright. We got a few folks up the road. Tupi, you need to ease off. Alright, I'm the center. Use me, like I said, use me as a center point. Go ahead and feel free to move forward. Patrick, yeah, I'm streaming with OBS. I have it set. I'm actually using Restream from OBS into Facebook. So I'm glad it's working fluently. Not quite sure on all the settings. This is a ride for the ODZ Skills and Drills on Zwift. So it's a class where we teach riding or cycling specific skills focused on group riding and racing. Alright. We're staying together nice as a group. Appreciate it, folks. So as you're doing this, see how much you can back off without losing the wheel in front of you. I think you'll be surprised to see what you can actually, settle down at. It's interesting when you're going a little bit faster. Obviously, you're gonna have the ability to back off a little bit more if you're faster in a big group. Obviously, when we're doing 1.5, it is kind of hard to back off too far, but you'll still be able to get the feel for it, of what it's like when you let off the gas just a little bit. What can you hold? What do you have to do to hold your position? So this is what I wanted you guys to work on while you're doing this here. I'm going to type out a little bit to those not on Discord what we're going to be doing, and then I'll give you guys a little more in-depth discussion. So as we hit these little risers too, make sure you're shifting appropriately to stay in that 1.5 area. Tupi's back with us. We have Villanueva as well now with us. So one of the things we're going to cover today is when you're expecting an attack and when you're not expecting an attack. So there's a difference when you're expecting an attack or you think attacks are likely for how you're going to choose your gearing potentially, vice when you're not. So if you watch a big stage race or a big race where they may have 4 or 5 or big climbs in the race, no one expects anything from the GC, the general classification contenders, to go on climb number 1 or 2. It's usually going to be in the last 2 climbs. So they're not going to be geared for anything but hard tempo up a climb. And they don't expect to have too many major accelerations. Unless you're trying to be in that break, and then potentially you have to do that. But we're looking at, big picture wise, what you want to look at. Now, you may be hitting courses like we're doing the Volcano Flat. We have a couple little climbs today. Nothing big, but they're just enough that if you launched an attack there, you could get a gap and get away. So therefore, if you expect possibly an attack at that point, you're later in a race, you need to be ready for it. In fact, the later in a race you are, the more prepared for an attack you always have to be. The later it goes, the higher chance of an attack falling. So that's what we're going to work on today. Our first part that we're going to do is we're going to show on the flat side of the house what the different gears are able to let us do. And it doesn't always have to be able to get up to a sprint. Sometimes it's just working on changing pace slightly because there's a small acceleration. Sometimes it's a break, like a big effort. So that's what we're going to look at, is some of the nuances of it and ensuring that you're able to do what you have to do at the appropriate times. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep, sure does.
All right. So one of the things I typed out is actually very applicable right here. We're on a course that undulates a little bit on this flat section, or going through the underwater areas. And so you want a gearing that allows you to ease off or pick it up, depending on what you need to do for the group. So ideally, you could be pedaling in a gear that you could just slow your cadence down to about 75 RPMs on that little climb right there. And then as you come off the incline, pick it back up. And then that'll allow you, that's a good gear. It allows you to get right back into it without having to risk any mechanical issues. So you're shifting gears. And frankly, you're not burning a lot of energy. You're just able to make it nice. And nice and smooth. And smooth is always best because it's the most efficient and consistent. Question, have I tell him drafting? So Richie, it's a good question. He's asking about how can you tell when you're drafting. If you're not on the Zwift concept bike, like I am, if you're on the Swift concept bike, you can't tell. If you're on a regular bike, when you're not in the draft, your character or your avatar will go down on the drops. When you're in the draft, they'll come up on the hoods. That's an easy way to tell. All right, let's keep it nice and controlled at the front. We want to keep our group tight. The arrow effect is bigger. So if you're watching on the stream, you just saw HU drop from the thing up top. That's alright, you got it. I got it. Yeah, you didn't message the group, you just messaged me, but that's fine. HU dropped into the drops from the hoods. And when he got back in, so I have a rider right now, Lloyd Jones just popped up. Alright, so let's tighten up the group a little bit. If you're in front of me, go ahead and ease to below 1.5. All right, and then once we're all grouped up nicely together, we'll pick it up just a little bit, and we'll periodically ease off. As our goal again today is keep everyone together, not to ride off the front and leave people behind. I think we have a few people who did that. Okay, so for those who are listening in, we're going to start off in a gearing that gives you a roughly 70 to 75 RPMs at 2.0. Nothing crazy. 2.0, 70 to 75 RPMs. We're not there yet, so don't worry. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change our pace when I say to, based on what I tell you to go to, trying to maintain in that gear. And we're going to see what it takes to accelerate up and what happens when you drop down in your effort. So this is just, again, not saying this is a bad gear, this is just saying this is how this gearing works. And then we'll go into different gearing after that. Let me type it out and then we'll get into it. Alright, go ahead and find a gear that'll put you at 70 to 75 RPMs at 2.0. Alright, when I say go, we're going to go through a series of short efforts. Without changing gears. So that's why it's important, if you can, try to be at the lower end of that RPM range, around 2.0. Hold your position. 2.0. All right. We're gonna go at 14. Everybody clear on what we're doing? All right, same gear. And go. All right, bring it up 15 seconds at 4.0. And down to 1.5. Yeah. The terrain isn't helping as much with it, but that's okay. And
I started in the small range, and that wasn't going to happen, man.
no, no. Back to 4.0. And back to 1.5. So what are you guys noticing so far, just pedaling in the higher gear, lower cadence when you try to get back up?
It's really not that difficult to get there. Holding it was a little harder.
Did you feel responsive though?
No, you don't jump to that speed.
It's a little jerky, yeah. I mean,
And back up, 4.0.
When I take it back, you do kind of spike.
Yeah, I mean you're gonna spike, but it's not as quick, right? For a sustained output.
No. Yeah, it's a jump there, you bounce back down, and then you slowly build back to it.
And back to 1.5. Here, go back to your natural cadence and just keep it 1.5. All right, good. Good, so let me type something out. So that's what we call mashing gears to a certain extent when you're riding at that 70 to 75 RPMs. You can motor it up and diesel it up, and that's okay for riding tempo when you're on the front, flat sections. I mean, I probably never actually ride 70 to 75 unless I'm standing going up a mountain, but yeah, it's not very responsive though. So if you ever watched race with guys like Jan Ulrich, one of the weaknesses he had was he couldn't respond quickly because he was a masher. All right, let's bring it back to 2.0 at 90 RPMs. Let's just bring it up to 90 RPMs, 2.0. Next lap, we're going to be doing some more climbing, so don't worry about that. We'll be hitting these. Easy at the front, folks. All right, so let's go get it back to 90 at 2.0. And we're going to do same thing. We're going to go up to 4, we're going to go back to 1.5. I just want you to see the responsiveness of that. All right, get ready. And
Same
go.
gear. Same
What's that?
gear, hey? The same gear.
The same gear you're currently in at 90 RPMs at 2.0. And down to 1.5.
You can't stay in the same gear, do 90 RPM. And
There you
4.0.
go. But you got there real quick, right?
Yeah, that's why I was asking, man. I'm like, it's spinning now, man.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Yes, you get there quickly, but you're up at 100 RPM.
Yep.
Which is fine. It gives you room to downshift.
Yep. We'll
Or
get that in a
up-
minute.
or upshift.
Yeah. All right. And up 4.0. So to hold 4.0, I'm doing 110 RPMs. And it still dips down. And back to 1.5. Yeah, so there you go. Oh, it's at 116, exactly.
My avatar is taken off, but my numbers aren't changing.
Back to 4.0. Ready? And go. Said your numbers aren't changing? But
Well,
what
they are
numbers-
this time.
Well, that's good. And down to 1.5. So regroup on me. Apologize, we've had a trash fire here. Elise, thanks for joining. We've had a trash fire here, so air quality is really bad.
Well, I thought you were talking about in your house.
No, the giant landfill here just to the north caught on fire 2 days ago, and it's been burning since.
Lovely.
It smells awesome.
Thank you.
Cadence was too high.
So here's the thing though, what I will tell you, when you're shifting, if you have to shift, it's better to be shifting at a slightly higher cadence to a harder gear than it is to be shifting at 70 RPMs and trying to shift to an easier gear. You're more likely to throw a chain or break a chain or break your cassette doing that if you're under load. So the nice part about it is you can respond really quick, right? Really quick, but you can't sustain that response, so you're going to have to shift, right? So you do leave yourself up for a problem, but at the same time, if you're able to respond, it's better to be able to respond and shift than have to shift then respond, because oftentimes our triggering and hand-foot coordination is not very good, and we shift while we're starting to put on the pressure on the pedals, and that causes some problems.
Ian, is it also better to attack than shift so that you're silent? Or
Yeah.
is that...
Well, it depends. Like if you're noodling along like this, you're going to have to shift up to attack, because you have to be able to put enough tension on the drivetrain to provide that torque to turns into power for you to go.
Understood.
But so if you can do it silently over a period of a minute or so, shift up once, wait, shift up a second time, and then go, then you're better off.
That's what I love about the i2. It's almost completely silent.
So let's bring it to 80 RPMs at 2.0. Now we're splitting hairs a little bit, I understand that, but I'm telling you, this is actually a really good general sensation on your legs. The tension for when is a good to pedal out. So like 80 to 85 is really good if you're expecting attacks. It may not be the most sustainable, but it's really good if you're expecting attacks. Alright, let me get one shift down. That's unfortunately right now at 2.0, that's kind of like in between gears for me. Alright, same drill, up to 4.0 and down to 1.5. Get ready. And go, up to 4.0. Justin, thanks for joining us. So it's doable, holdable at this. I'm at 97 RPMs. That's sustainable. And down to 1.5. You got there pretty quick.
99 RPM. That was actually easier.
Yeah, you got there pretty quick too, right?
Yes.
So in this time when you guys get to your 4.0, I want you to get there as fast as possible. And the reason I want you to see that is I want you to feel what happens when you go. Alright, up to 4.0. Go! Alright, back to 1.5. So did you notice that it was like immediate response as far as you had resistance on your pedals?
Immediate response and immediate acceleration.
Yeah.
Correct.
Up to 4.0, let's go. And back to 1.5. Natural cadence. 1.5. Let's keep it nice and regroup. Don't forget to shift. So what you should have noticed there, what we just mentioned, it's immediate response. You can get up there. It's sustainable at a harder effort. You could still shift if you needed to, but you don't necessarily need to right away. You can cover the move and then make the assessment. Or close the gap and then ease back off.
Yeah, much more.
So it has some advantages doing what we just did. Alright, so like I said, you'll be able to shift if needed after you make an assessment of the situation. A lot of times once you cover the move, you're able to actually sit back up and go back down. So now you didn't need to shift at all instead of having to shift twice possibly. Alright, so we're going to cover some gearing choices for the climb.
So the question was asked, does this count for mountain bikes as well? Same idea?
It is a similar principle. Mountain bikes, you have to be a little more careful regarding the back wheel slippage. But yes.
Okay.
Was that typed out and I just missed it?
Yeah.
Alright, so on the short climb, go ahead.
To say, in other words, you need to know your terrain before you start torquing.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's loose dirt or slick, you're gonna slide you're gonna spin that back wheel.
Yeah.
Alright, let's get back to our 70 to 75 RPMs at 2.0. So I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm going to roll at about 65 to 70 RPMs. On this one, stay seated, no shifting. When we hit the climb is when I want you to bring it to 4.0. And what's going to be fun is when we get to this, if you stay seated, you don't have that ability to necessarily torque your way up on the because of the extra resistance on the bike. You're going to have to grind it up. So we're going to look at a little bit difference between that and standing. Then we'll work some higher cadence too. Alright, we are almost at our climb. So the second climb we're going to do once we get to the actual volcano. At the actual volcano, what we're going to do is go at about 80 RPMs. We're going to sit into it, and once your cadence drops below 80, you're going to stand and accelerate. So it's going to help you with figuring out what gears work for you for being able to come out of the saddle. But for right now, we're going to stay in the saddle. So Seth, once we finish up this climb, your group's going to have to slow down. You guys are about 6 seconds up the road from us.
Yeah, I'm watching it. I'm trying to drop back to you. I'm all alone.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Let it lift up. Grind that bad boy up there. Not really easy, is it?
No, staying seated doesn't work here very well.
All right, back to natural cadence at 1.5. If you're up there, drop to 1.0 until we pass you. If you're not sure if you're up the road, if you see a bunch of people behind you, you're up the road. Yeah, Lloyd, go ahead and do that. So what I want you to do is you're going to simply hold whatever your gear that you're in at 2.0 at that 80 to 85. Once you start going uphill, just hold what you got. Your cadence is going to drop as you hit it, and then I want you to come out of the saddle. So when you come out of the saddle, you're not going to have to shift. I just want you to come out and accelerate. Spin those legs, and you can sit down afterwards, but I want you to accelerate up. And the reason we're going to do this is you're going to see how much more responsive you are when you're putting your weight into the pedals. And that's just a matter of being able to go to pace like that by grinding up it. So once you hit the climb, remember, don't shift. Okay, coming around to our turn shortly. We should be at a nice, easy 80 to 85 RPMs, 2.0. You can accelerate over 4.0 if you want, but just keep it under control. Don't blow your legs out. All right, here we go. Let gravity do its, or the resistance do its work to get your cadence down. Hold what you got. Hold it. Once it slows naturally, then accelerate. Whoops, broke my own rule there, sorry. So I'm coming out, I'm bringing it up, carrying it all the way through that, and then coming back down to hold. Go ahead and hit it again if you're off the back. Good. All right, ease at the front to 1.0. All right, we had to let a few people catch on, folks. That's why we're not pedaling hard at the front yet. Manuel, if you guys could drop to a 1.0, that'd be great.
Right behind you, bro.
Okay. All right. Looks like everyone up front is following suit.
No, you're right, man. We were getting away, though. That's why you stopped.
No worries. So what we're going to do now for the remainder of our time, we're going to hit, based on terrain, we're just going to roll at, first we're going to roll at about 70, 75 RPMs. When we hit different terrain, we're going to try different accelerations. It's going to be a free-for-all as far as when you want to accelerate. I want to get at least 3 to 5 accelerations from everybody, but then just come back to the group when you accelerate off. So there's no need to, once you're off the front, come right back. And then we're going to go back up to an 80, and we'll go back up to a 90. But we're going to do it as terrain dictates. I want you to accelerate. I want you to find good places for you to attack at different cadences. Once you come out of the saddle, once you do it seated. So I want you to pick, we're going to pick those 3 cadences over the next 10 minutes. We're going to go from there. Alright, let's get back down to 70, 75 RPMs. And I want you guys to practice too with some shifting. Get it up to speed, then shift. Try to shift a little bit early. Don't shift when you're under a lot of pressure. Don't break your equipment. But just see what it takes to be able to get up there and shift. Or do you even need to shift? Can you get up there, and settle back down? So feel free to start going on your own. I'm going to hold 2.0 right here. And you guys can use me as that come back to the group part. All right. Let's get them in there. I really try and work, what does it take? And one of the things we're doing with simulating a bit at the 70-75 is this is more reminiscent of riding, or more, it equates more to riding on a big hill or big climb, because you might be down at those RPMs. So even practice already being out of the saddle at 70-75 RPMs and throwing an acceleration.
That actually felt nice, man.
Yeah.
Once I managed to hold it up there, I could actually put some torque to it.
Yeah, it's nice. And then if you decide you can throw a shift in there, it makes it easier. So we're going to go up to the 80 to 85 RPMs now. So be cognizant of terrain. You know, when you're resting and recovering, come back to me. I want you to be holding 2.0 as you come back to me. Or you'll be under 2.0 as you come back, but when you're with me, I want you holding 2.0. Move my hand over. So do it at 80, 85. Go ahead and shift yourself up to a position where you're at the 80 to 85 and you hit these small lumps and accelerate through at these small inclines. These are places where you can take advantage of people, catch them sleeping. So practice, what does it take to do it? So it's much, much harder as you're practicing this to get away at a 0%. Unless you're just a beast. That's just way stronger than everybody else. So that's why I'm saying practice on these different pieces of terrain where you can take advantage of people. Maybe it's because of, maybe you're lighter, maybe it's you're more explosive, you know, maybe it's on a downhill because you're just heavier. But again, it's very hard because the amount of power you have to put out to get a gain going downhill is significantly more than an uphill, unless you weigh a lot more than the other person. That's why I never attack downhills. Alright, let's move it on up now. Let's do it up at 100 RPMs. $95 to 100 RPMs. So on your accelerations, you're going to have to shift. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to have to shift.
Yeah, that's not fun at all.
No, and if you did shift when you were at lower gear, try and note though how it felt. It's much easier to shift at the higher gear, vice the lower gear.
Yeah, you could probably pop 2 or 3 shifts in there and still be all right.
Yeah, so that is the one nice thing. When you shift at higher cadence like that, you can definitely throw it 2 gears, 3 gears, and not risk all that much. When you're at the lower cadences, 1, maybe 2. And that doesn't mean just going up. That could be going to easier gears. But because of the speed of the cassette in the back, that's turning much slower and there's much more tension on it, it just doesn't shift as easy. All right, bring it back down. All right, bring it back down to 75 RPMs and come out of the saddle. So everybody nice and out of the saddle. We're just going to stay out of the saddle here. Now I want you to do your accelerations out of the saddle and accelerate your cadence up and then bring it back down. All right, the whole time out of the saddle. Again, a lot of people aren't going to like this either, but I don't care.
Okay, awesome back there.
Anyone who's raced with me up the mountain knows I like to basically just be out of the saddle and climbing the whole time. All right, about 15 seconds left. Get another attack if you get acceleration if you got time. All right, great job. Let's spin out the legs. All right. So, recap for you guys. Gearing matters a lot as it dictates your ability to accelerate or respond to whether it doesn't have to be race. It could just be a gap that opens up, a gap that forms. If you're not in the right cadence or right gear, pedaling the right cadence at the right time, your ability to respond quickly and efficiently is affected. So, one of the things we covered today is spinning at too high of a cadence. You know, while it may be a little more comfortable to pedal at 90 than it is 80, that's not really ideal if you have to worry about closing gaps or responding, because your upper end, the upper end of your response capability is very limited, and you're going to have to shift. And if you have to shift, you're risking a mechanical. Now, again, you have to shift in a race all the time, but we want to limit it. We want to limit the times we have to shift under pressure. Because that's always when our equipment fails. You rarely see equipment failing, you know, when everyone's riding nice and easy. It's always as they're gearing up for the sprint. Same thing when you go too low. You have a big top end, but it's very hard to get there. You have to grind it up first, and then you have to slowly ramp it up and find that right cadence. And again, it's very hard to shift when you're at a low cadence with a lot of tension in the drivetrain. So if you're pedaling squares, you know, nice and slow, and then I have to put pressure on it and try to shift, it takes a little bit more time. But if I'm riding at a higher cadence, nice and steady, and I need to shift, they pop right away. There's less grinding, it's more fluid. Plus, it's also much harder. You have to start putting more weight into it and maybe moving your body around, so it's less efficient. That middle road of between 80, 85 is usually a great place to pedal when you're worried about responding and having to change pace quickly, because you can easily back off and, you know, drop to a 75 RPMs if you have to ease off, and quickly bring it back from that 80 to 85. Or you can accelerate quickly and bring it up from that 85 to 95 and respond. And again, that's a flaw of the lower cadence. The lower cadence you're pedaling, and then you slow it down, it's harder to get it back up. If you ever worked on an erg mode on your trainer, you definitely know that feeling. And then as we look at climbing, you know, you have to kind of figure out what kind of climb it is and what kind of climber am I. Because for me, I'm an out of saddle person. I don't have as much punchiness when I'm seated. But when I'm out of the saddle, I can really accelerate quickly and drop some of the more powerful people. But if I try to do it seated, I don't have that same punch. So you have to figure out what works for you, and then apply the same principles with the gearing though. It's almost exactly the same. If you're already pedaling 95 RPMs, your ability to quickly accelerate, I mean, you can accelerate quickly, but you're limited at the top end. You're not going to go very far, because how many of us can really maintain or sustain 115 to 120 RPMs? Same as if you're mashing the gear up a hill, you're not accelerating quickly. You're a diesel, it's going to take you a while to get up to that pace. So any questions, comments, anything from tonight from the group?
What about downhill?
So downhill, yeah, that's a great question. Downhill is interesting because if it's a real steep downhill, once you get up to a certain velocity, it's really less effective to pedal. The way I look at it is if I only have 1 or 2 gears remaining and I'm spinning out at 90 to 100 RPMs already or more, because to feel resistance, it's better to get in a very aero position and ride the fastest lines. And as I feel the speed drop a little bit, I hit it and bring it back up. If it's a slight downhill, you can get away with a little bit lower RPM, a little bit lower cadence, because gravity will help you respond.
Cool, man. Thanks. Yeah.
And actually, for mountain bikers, I would say that, you know, when you're riding up the climb, as you come into the crest of your hill, you want to shift up 1 or 2 as you come through the crest and really accelerate into that downhill, and that's going to give you a big bang for the buck. It helps a lot in road racing too, but mountain biking, it's very crucial for you to get back up to speed quick, especially if you're working single track events.
Basically, you just kind of got to time it well and two-puck somebody.
Yeah, well, it could be that, or if you've just passed someone or someone's even closing in on you on a climb a little bit, if you can accelerate through the cresting of the hill into that first third down, or at least the first few meters down, depending how steep it is, you can actually create a gap again. And mentally, you can kind of break him a little bit, saying, I was catching him, but now he just outpowered me at the end. So there's benefit to being able to do that.
Right. Cool, man. Thanks.
Yeah, it works well in running too.
I should try that.
No, I found I can, you know, people who are running uphill fast, if you can just get a really fast turnover on a downhill running, you can actually, you can drop people or get away from on the downhill and use less energy. Whereas they worked a lot harder on the uphill.
Gravity is free.
Just get the pitter patter of little feet. It's just brrrr.
Yeah, I can see that. down the hill it gets sketchy, you know, but yeah, that's stuff where you gotta take it then. You gotta take the risk.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's how much risk can you tolerate. When I raced in St. Croix, the downhill on the run was so steep at one spot. I mean, it was risk I couldn't take because my legs were already shattered, so I had to zigzag down it.
Couldn't just tuck and roll? No.
It was on a golf course, so I could have, but I wasn't really confident in my ability to get back up if I hit the ground. I couldn't say my ability, confident in my will to pick myself off the ground. I might have just laid there for a bit.
Thanks again, man.
Yeah, no worries. Folks in Streamline, that's going to be it for us. Thanks for joining in. Hope you guys learned something, and you guys have a great rest of the week. We'll see you out on course this weekend, maybe. Oh, no, this weekend I'm racing, so no riding for me. Sorry.
You got this weekend?
Thanks a lot.
Navy 10K.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll win that.
They give a prize money to the pros, so I'll take the amateur side of the house, though.